So welcome back to my channel. This is Gamer Dom, and some really interesting things coming out of Tank Fest, or sorry, Wargame Fest 2018, which is going on at the moment, about what to expect next year. Now, you get through all the bullshit that there is around here, where they're talking about how they've improved the matchmaking and grand battles. Yeah, right, they fucked it up right royally. There's some really interesting stuff. Now, specifically, they're talking about these areas here for next year. Solve some of the substantial issues with matchmaking. Well, about bloody time. Bring back the frontline mode. Yes, please. Introduce Swedish medium tanks alongside other new vehicles. So when they mean other new vehicles, they mean premiums, obviously. Make clans more accessible. I don't know really what they mean with that, because you can just join a clan easily, can't you? Anyway, and much, much more. So what are they thinking about premium matchmaking? Now, this is really interesting. So first of all, they start talking twash about, oh, it's not premium ammunition or gold ammo, it's special ammo. So they're trying to set us up for the idea that, you know, this is some kind of special function ammo, which I kind of get. I sort of understand that. There is a logic to that. I mean, heat shells don't lose their penetration values over distance, for instance, whereas other rounds do. And you know, kind of that has a function within game. If you're shooting at somebody across the other end of the map, firing heat is sometimes a good thing, because the shell doesn't lose that penetration ability. Also has some stronger penetration ability, of course. So what they're saying about, what they're talking about here, is to be more conscious, for players to be more conscious about what they load their shells in. Now, they're talking about having premium ammo, so special ammo, as they keep saying, having a higher penetration chance but a lower damage per shot, 25 to 30% less than the standard AP shells. Now, that's got to be a good thing, right? Got to be a good thing. The spamming of gold has got ridiculous levels at the moment within the game. I mean, absolutely stupid. It must be bad if even Wargaming are looking at it, right? So that's a good move, I think. Reducing the amount of damage by 25%, but increasing the amount of penetration as it is now with the gold ammo. I think that's a good thing. And they're saying high explosive shells make it possible to inflict damage with greater probability regardless of whether the vehicle is armoured or not. So that doesn't look like they're changing that, which again I think is a good thing. When you fire your big arse gun at heavily armed tanks, you don't tend to do much HE damage, but if you fire against a lightly armed thing, boy does it go up. Now, I think there's an argument for changing the HE values, the premium HE values of Type 5 heavies and Type 4 heavies, for instance, maybe in line with what they're saying here. So I don't know, mind you, would you do more? They wouldn't have any more penetration, but I don't know, they should do something about it. It does seem wrong that a shell that you pay extra gold for does an extra amount of damage. Just the whole basic principle of that is wrong in my book. So I think this is good. You know, I still think there's a very simple way. You limit the amount of gold ammunition being flung around. Set it at 10% maximum capacity, so you can only carry 10% gold ammo. Then the problem will go away. But yeah, whatever. This is their latest attempt. So proposal is to drop damage by 25 to 30%, but it keep the higher penetration values that the premium ammo gets. Okay, well that's good. So what next? They want to hear from us to hear whether we like the idea. Okay. And we're aware that these changes will significantly affect some tanks, but don't worry, we're going to individually evaluate them case by case. Okay. So interesting. I think that's a good move. Personally, I'd love to know what you think, but anything to manage the amount of gold being flung around at the moment is just ridiculous, the amount of and I notice it particularly not only in the games I'm playing, but also when I go and play, look on WoT Tank's replay site for some, you know, games being played, some nice games that I could feature on the channel, particularly if there's a new tank come out and I haven't bought it because I'm not buying so much anymore. I'll go and have a look and see. And some of these, you know, you have to go through about 20 games before you find one where somebody just hasn't solidly fired gold. It's just ridiculous, the amount of gold fire. So good thing, I think. Anything to do limiting it, and if it's reducing the damage per shot but maintaining that higher penetration, well, I think that's a... Let's try it, see whether it has an effect on the game. I hope so, because otherwise it's going to make it a really painful game to play, or even more painful. So next up, everybody's favourite thing, matchmaking. Oh dear. So first of all, again, they start with all the stuff that they've done right, which, you know, to be fair to them, I think they have. They've basically stopped people being able to use failed platoons. I don't remember, those players who've been around a little bit longer will remember you'd go into a game sometimes and, you know, it was a tier 10 game or something, and some idiot in the other platoon, one of the other platoons, had gone out in a tier 1 or a tier 3 or something. You know, and it's a laugh for them, but for the team that's got that handicap on their side, that's a huge problem for them. You know, 1/15 of their team is worthless basically in the game, and chances are the platoon that does that are also pretty crap and won't actually contribute much anyway, so they're probably 2 or 3 players down. So, you know, they got rid of that, which is good. Also reduced the number of self-propelled guns in the game. You know, at some points you used to get up to 8 in the games, and you don't anymore. 6 is the maximum. I still think it should be 2, personally. I think 2 is enough. But I think self-propelled guns are I think they're a necessity in the game. They're an invaluable component of the game. But I think they should limit them down to 2, personally, and allow them to platoon again. That's one of the things that pisses me off. You can't platoon with them anyway. And teams were getting matched so that there are very few opponents of your own tier, so you might have 13 tier 10s and 2 tier 8s. So I don't remember too much of that myself, but that's why they brought in this Nevada of 3-5-7 matchmaking. 3 top tiers, 5 middles, 7 bottoms, or at worst 5-10 games. And as we all know, the reality is what's happened here is that basically virtually never do you get top tier. You might occasionally do, but basically you're very seldom middle and you're almost always bottom tier. So what they're looking at is to amend this somehow. They've already looked at the premium tanks, preferential matchmaking tanks, but what they're trying to do is instill a new template that's much more flexible than the previous ones, because currently what it does is when it's looking at the teams, it says can I fill 3-5-7 as a template. If they can't do 3-5-7, they look at 5-10. They must have changed it already, because also you sometimes get all the same tier games, but now they're going to be looking at other options. So it could be a 2-tier game, could be 6-9s or 7-8s. Or 3 tiers where it's a 4-5-6 or a 5-5-5, for instance. So, you know, again, just to make it a little bit thing, but they're saying the overarching aim is, put it simply, we'd like players to be at top of the list more often. And, you know, that's one of the biggest bugbears of players in the game, I think, apart from gold, is the matchmaking. So good, they need to address it. However, and this is the big caveat here, right? And careful what you wish for, boys and girls, is remember some of these tanks that are out there, like the Defender or now the IS-3A, these super tanks that are out there. What restrains them is the fact that they very often are bottom tier. Imagine them being more often than not top tier. Yeah, so careful what you wish for. But I think, you know, overall, matchmaking is screwed, needs to be improved. I think some of the guys in the channel here I know have regularly talked about, why isn't it just +1 matchmaking? And I agree. I think it should just be +1. Make life so much easier, and make the game so much more fun. But anyway, matchmaking definitely another priority for them, which is good, because otherwise they're going to leak even more players. So the next thing, which will delight a lot of players, that means you shoot, is frontlines coming back. So if you remember, this was the multi-phased games where you had an attack defend situation, tier 8, You could swap tanks if you got destroyed, and you had three fronts of games. So, and you had to fight your way through, taking the strong points if you're an attacker, and if you're a defender, you had to hold it. Fantastic fun. I think everybody agreed. I didn't hear any. Well, I think I only heard one person who moaned about Frontlines. I thought it was a superb mode, and they took it away, which is a real shame. But they're now going to bring it back. So starting off first quarter of 2019, we'll see it again. Be slightly revamped. Basically, they're saying the Frontline will stay pretty much the same, with the same sort of prestige level, and they'll kick it off every calendar month, and it'll be available for 1 week. Your journey through the event will last a week every month and 10 weeks in total. So yeah, so it's a sort of cumulative thing, which is good, right? I mean, and I kind of get why they've done that. I mean, one of the things I think that people were relaying is that Frontline became so popular when it was being run that virtually nobody was playing standard random games. So if you took out your tier 8, it was really hard to get a battle, and everyone was playing Frontlines. So I think by limiting it for a week every month, I think that's a good thing, right? I think it's a really good thing. So as well as the basic rewards, players will also be rewarded with special points for reaching a prestige level. But what's interesting, and I thought they would change this, is down here it says XP and credit earned rates will remain the same as last year's Frontline. Repair and shell costs won't change either. Now, Frontlines was a real money spinner. I've still got my gold now, is my silver, sorry, is up to about 35 million, and it's largely based on the huge amount of Frontline credits I accrued and then never spent, and it's just increased over time because I've not been spending it. But I must have made 10-15 million just on Frontlines alone over the period it was running, and or maybe even more if you take into account some of the tanks I bought during that time. So I was surprised. I thought they would reduce the amount of credit and the amount of XP earned by Frontline, but no, it's going to be the same, so that's all good, right? So other things they're looking at now is their continuing efforts to rebalance tanks. So one of the ones they're looking at, the first few they're looking at, the E100, I guess that needs a bit of work, probably does with the new meta. IS-4 is a god-awful tank, definitely needs some help. The Leopard 1, never played it, but it does look a little bit on the weak side. STB-1, again, I've got that one, but don't often play it. And the Kranwagen, that's a new tank. I mean, the fact they're having to rebalance that is a little bit scary. They're also looking to rebalance mid-tier vehicles. The list provided is not complete, and therefore it'll be possible that other tanks will be added. So again, looking for your feedback, looking for their thoughts on what we should do, what they should do around rebalancing of vehicles. Yeah, don't know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that really need working on. IS-4 is definitely one that's very, very weak right now and needs some work. The Leopard definitely as well, I think, needs a bit of work, a bit of improvement, because they've just been left behind by what's going on in the game. But more rebalancing is here to stay. So also new vehicles coming to the game, talked about this at the beginning. Swedish medium tanks are coming. They're testing at the moment a new premium Swedish medium tank tier 8, which apparently is extremely quick for a medium tank, and that will be the sort of feature of these things. Very maneuverable vehicles with fast firing and accurate guns. Sound fun, but of course no armor. So yeah, really good. I think that sounds interesting. So that'll be coming at some point. No idea exactly when. So we'll see what happens with that. They're also experimenting with mechanics settings for the new Swedish tanks, because we'd like to make the switch to siege and switch to siege automatic. So that's interesting. So does that mean the moment you stop, you go into siege mode? I can see that could be a bit of a problem, because you're not always wanting to deploy into siege mode. So I don't know, that'd be very interesting. We'll have to see what that means. But that's, yeah, they're still looking and tinkering with things. There'll be new mechanics, but they're not going to tell us what that is yet. Rank battles. New series of ranked battles will start in 2019. I never played it myself, but I know some people loved it. And the new paradigm, new division is qualification, right? So that's all to do with frontlines. So I don't really know anything about that. You'll have to look at that, look up yourself for that. Clan Wars will start in January for those of you in the clan that takes part in Clan Wars, and the reward tank will be the British Tier 10 heavy tank, the T95 FV4201 Chieftain. It's a chieftain by any other name. It's not really a chieftain, but it sort of is, sort of. So it's good tough turret and a good combination of high alpha damage and DPM. Also, finally, bonds. So these are the extra stuff that we get. We've given some, if you've been registered with the game for a certain period of time, you got a whole load of them. You could buy special equipment with them. They're now looking at offering an ability to buy tanks, premium tanks, using bonds, which is interesting. Yeah, I think that could be an interesting thing. We'll have to see whether it comes of it. I mean, I don't know how many people have got. It's quite difficult to earn a huge number. It's certainly difficult to earn enough to put in the premium or the extra special equipment on your vehicles. So I can't imagine people got huge amounts of them kicking around, but if they do, then at least that's something else you can do with them, right, I guess. And the thing here, we plan to add vehicles to the bonds shop in 2 rounds. The first lot will appear in spring of 2019 and will include more affordable vehicles. The second will contain more exclusive vehicles and will go on sale in the second half of the year. So if you've got bonds and you're thinking about getting a premium, you might want to hold on and wait to see what happens here. So the other thing they're looking at is premium accounts. They're looking to bolster them up, which is interesting and goes again to the heart of the fact they're wanting us to spend money on this game. They're making, at the moment, you make a premium of extra credits and extra experience when you're using a premium account over those who don't, and it looks like they're now looking to increase that even more. So we'll see. And they're also intriguingly saying perhaps the updated premium account will also provide players with some additional opportunities. So I don't know, could that be a way to earn more bonds or what have you? We shall see, but definitely looking at tinkering with the premium accounts. As you would expect, they're throwing premium tanks at us like crazy to get us to spend money, and then the next logical thing is to do something with the premium accounts, because I know quite a few people, they're not necessarily renewing their premium accounts, they're just playing with their premium tanks and making do. So I think, you know, they're clearly looking at premium accounts as well as the tanks themselves. And also, not that it bothers me in the slightest, I have to say, but some people it does, more customized styles. So you've got the new winged hussar on the Polish heavy tank, the 50 TP. You've got the Carnarvon Action 10's special camo on there. There's the Warhammer 40k stuff. There's also the ones that you could win in the large Christmas or large festive boxes. You could win special camo or special skins basically for the T59, 57 Heaven, the Bat Chat, the Grill and the i7. So they're going to do more of that. They obviously see that as a money spinner. And also there'll be something called tank races, which will be later in the year, which will be a special mode, I believe. So what do you think? Love to know what you think. As always, let me know down in the comments down below. And I think the premium matchmaking, premium ammo rebalancing is a good thing. I think to reduce that damage that you get while you still get the increased penetration is probably a good way to go. Be interesting to see what the Super Uniscums do. Do they stick to the premiums for the guaranteed pens, or do they move on to, you know, a more balanced loadout of normal shells and premium? It'd be interesting to see. The changes or improvements to the matchmaking also to be welcomed, and the frontline mode coming back is a huge win. Very pleased with that. So I think there's some interesting stuff they're looking at. Most of these things appear to be fairly early in the year, so you won't have to wait too long to see the impact. But as I say, let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's a good thing, bad thing. There's been a lot of talk about dropping numbers of players and how Wargaming are kind of killing the game at the moment. Is this a good move? What do you think? Personally, yeah, I think it is. I think it's if they do these things and they do them right, it could actually see a lot of players hang around a bit longer. Whereas at the moment they're being, players are leaking out the game. So I think improving the matchmaking, doing something about the gold spam, bringing back front lines, continue to rebalance tanks is all going to be a good thing, I think, for those of us that like the game, and hopefully it will make us all feel a bit better about playing it. And ultimately, I guess for Wargaming's hope is that will help us to stay around, and we might put our hands in our pockets and spend more money, which obviously is a good thing for them as a business and them to reinvest in the game. So anyway, let me know what you think as ever, and yeah, really appreciate it. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. In the meantime, enjoy your games, have fun, try not to take it too seriously, and I'll see you again soon. This is Gamer Dom signing out.